Okay, welcome back. We've let the plaster cloth dry overnight. Now the next step we're going to do is we're going to coat this with a product called Sculptamold. It's made by Amco. This is another one of my favorite products. Again, this is how I do most dioramas. This gives me that shell to actually either paint, start the groundwork. I just use it in everything. It's indispensable to me. What it is, it's a plaster, I don't know, it's like a paper mache plaster based compound. It's not soupy like regular plaster. It's got ground up paper in it or something of that nature. It mixes the same as a plaster. I mix it so it's kind of thick so it's sculptable. You can make contours with it. As with most plaster products, the water you use, the colder the water you use, the slower it'll set up. The warmer the water, the quicker it'll set up. So we're going to use a container such as this. It's going to shrink down here. Almost looks like ground up toilet paper and plaster, kind of. I don't make it soupy. I'd make it just so it's all mixed and I can sculpt it. But I like to use this as the final covering. You can make mounds. This just gives me the real good base to work with. Again, being plaster base, it's not going to shrink once it's dry. So it's kind of pasty. I don't even know this. Actually, I'll probably make up 2 batches to cover what I'm trying to do here. Let's bring this back. It works here so you can see. Basically, just put it on. What I use to smooth it out a little bit is just plain Jane chip brushes. One I've cut the bristles off of to make it stiffer, so when I try to curve it around. But yeah, this definitely won't be enough to do what I want to do to cover this, so we'll do this. We'll mix up another batch. This doesn't have to be thick. It's got to be a little thicker on the edges here because I've got a recess in it. Let's do it with that. Now I'm going to use the stiff brush, almost to paint it on, smooth it. I just want a little covering over my plaster cloth. For this stage, since this is basically going to be a lot of flat area, I just want to cover my plaster cloth and get it up to fill the voids of the edge here. Doesn't have to go all the way up. There's going to be a lot of ground cover, a lot of stuff going on. And if it turns out not to be enough, I can always add more. It's kind of gooey, but it's real neat stuff. It's especially useful if you're doing mountains or rocks, rock molds, to blend them together. Just because if you try to do that with plaster, it just runs all over the place. This doesn't. Like, we could mound this and make mounds out of it if we wanted to. Let's see, it didn't get us too far. It's an inexpensive product. I'm not overly concerned about these recesses. One note, if you use this for rocks, not rocks, I'm sorry, trying to fill in between rock molds. If you use the staining technique for rocks or anything else, this does not stain like plaster. So if you use washes to try to paint your stuff, this is going to not take the wash. If you're using this, it really needs to be painted. Let's get the edge built up here first. Now this is how I start all my dioramas. Gives me that good base. Don't really have any questions. Once this is set, we'll let it dry, and then we'll actually paint it with acrylics, cheap craft acrylics. This particular one green, because we're doing a summer scene. Actually, we get pretty far here. Don't need much more. Just a little bit more. You can actually drop some paint in this and color it if you want, but I don't usually do that. A little extra here, a little void. So we'll use it. Build this up a little more here in my recess. And there you have it. Go through and smooth it out a little bit more. This takes a little longer to dry than regular plaster, so. Okay, here we have it. So what we'll do is, I'll smooth this out a little bit more, let it dry, get the little chippy things off here. Then we'll come back, we'll paint it. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna paint it a green because this is gonna be a summer scene. So we'll paint it green, and then from there on we'll mark out our layout and how we're going to do it, and we'll get building. So that's it for this round. We'll come back, we'll paint it, and we'll keep going from there.